Hey TV fans, Bored Now back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about episode 1 of Task. The episode is called Crossings, full spoilers as always from the start of this review. So this is the new HBO mini-series and it's from the same creator as Mare of Easttown, which I reviewed a few years ago on the channel when it came out, and you can find those reviews on the channel. Stars Mark Ruffalo as pretty much a retired FBI agent, or he's going into retirement at the time. He's recently returned to work after a long period, but they've just stuck him on like admin type roles. He sees himself as like winding down his career, and he's at that stage where he's like this grizzly veteran who just wants to take things easy from now on. He's kind of done all he wants to do with his career. But then his boss, played by Martha Plimpton of The Goonies, always great to see her in something, she calls him back in and says she's starting up a new task force and that she wants him to lead it. And the reason she's starting up a task force is because of a spate of robberies in the area, which has led to some deaths. Robbie, who's a garbage man, and he lives with his niece, played by Emilia Jones, Melv, and we're 1 year removed from him losing his wife. A big part of that storyline is that we see how Melv is basically looking after Robbie's kids for him when he's at work, and even when he comes home she prepares the meals, and it's just this whole thing really where she doesn't really get to have much of a life of her own. We get more details as the episode goes on, where we find out that Robbie was taken in by Melv, like she was left the house by her late father, and because Robbie was homeless, then she took him in, and that's something which adds even more to the tension and the drama between those two characters, because she finally reaches a breaking point in the episode and gets to the point where she wants Robbie out of there and out of her life. But the twist to the Robbie character is because he's struggling for money, him and his work friend Cliff doing these robberies where they target drug houses and they attempt to get the money which they expect to be stashed away in the drug houses. Sort of almost a comedic twist is that they wear like horror style masks to disguise their face. There's also a third member of the group who's like a drug dealer, and he ends up getting killed in the dramatic like finale of the episode. The first episode, and what I thought of it, I thought it was a very solid first episode. It definitely has a certain HBO type feel to it from the start. So just the opening scene, which has this very epic sort of feel to it, and this very like gritty, grimy feel to it, and we're cutting around like the two main characters, and we get a sense of the setting and everything else. So it has a very worthy, like, as I said, epic HBO style theme to it. I think it's pretty solid in what it's doing when it sets up the two characters. Like, definitely by the end of the episode we get a good sense of the two main characters and the lives they live, the world that's being built. You get this very effective bit of direction later in the episode where the Mark Ruffalo character is just, he's almost like lounging about his house, cleaning it, and we're getting the sense of a guy who is struggling to like even like sort of potter about and do like the mundane things. But just that's kind of what he wants to do as well. That's just what he wants his focus to be. He doesn't really have that much time for like the outside world, struggling to maintain a relationship with like the young woman who he lives with, who I think is his daughter, but it was never made like 100% clear. So he kind of has that in common with the Robbie character, like that how they're depicted as very different characters. Like Tom is depicted as this character who's very well respected, he's a career man, and yeah, he's a figure of authority, whereas Robbie is on the other end of the scale. It's very much on the lower rank of society and struggling to make ends meet, probably as working class a character as you would get, really. But there is definitely links where they do seem to have similar personality problems and personality traits. I think their personalities obviously are very different. Like I said, Robbie does have this sort of man-child type feel to him, and that seems where they've cast the actor very well, because it's not that far off the sort of role he played in Ozark. The Middle, where Mark Ruffalo, as I said, was like cleaning his house and things like that, and it kept going between like Robbie and his friends, and it was after they'd done their first robbery and they were on a little bit of a high, and they just dive into the swimming pool, or they're diving off like a cliff into like water, and you just get that contrast between Tom's more mundane, boring existence at that point. So you've got the rush compared with like the mundane, really. So that was very nicely done. There is some good direction. There's some really good tension in the scenes where the robberies are taking place, especially late on in the episode where things start to go belly up for them. Ruffalo is pretty much a natural when it comes to this kind of role. Would expect maybe the Ruffalo part to be a bit more dark or a bit more gritty, just because he's like this very good dramatic actor. And you maybe assume that Robbie is going to have the more comedic plot, because there is some stoner stuff in his side of the plot. There's other bits and pieces that maybe imply there's going to be funny bits. But that's actually not how it played out, or that's not how I saw it playing out, because there was actually some good humour in the Mark Ruffalo plot. Like, I did enjoy Kath, his boss, and just how blunt and honest she was about being pissed off at being retired for like a younger model, like kind of out of touch, because that's another big theme in this show. In the first episode, constantly feeling behind the times, out. There's almost like lost in translation, lack of communication with him and people around him. I know there's a comment early on from someone who comes off quite patronising in a way, and then you've got the stuff with his team when they first meet up, and there's one particular like younger character, and this is probably the funniest scene in the episode, where she's at the door and she's ranting about like infestation at her place and having an argument with the guy over the phone, and then there's a whole thing about how she hasn't even got access to the email, like the welcome email to the task force, and he's like, well, why don't you check your spam folder? So there's some good humour with like her character, with just how loud she is and how put out he is kind of by it. So it is sort of funny. Like, you would expect more humour maybe on the other side of the plot, the other character. But in this first episode, there are some good kind of fish out of water or behind the times, feeling like kind of worthless gags with the Mark Ruffalo character. So that stuff is quite well done. And I think the episode dances between some awkward humour at times and like something a lot more serious. So you've got the scene where Merv goes on like a rare date with a guy, and that scene at first turns into something a bit darkly funny before it becomes like sort of more messed up, because Robbie is hiding in the wardrobe because he's in a room. He didn't expect them to come back, so he quickly hides in the wardrobe. And when they start to have sex. He's like, okay, I better get out of here. And so he comes out of the wardrobe, and there's this whole thing where it's like, oops, sorry, and they're like, they react to it. And that's a scene where at first it's like darkly funny, but then it turns violent as he gets into a shoving match with Merv's date. And that leads to a blow up with them. And also at the end scene, like the robbery that goes wrong, there's this stuff about where there are these almost comedic beats which are like worked into a more tense, serious scene, because there's like this struggle between, I think it's the drug dealer, but it's one of them anyway, and the girlfriend of the guy who lives in the house. And she wrestles his hood off at one point, and there's also then the drug dealer, the guy in the house recognises one of their voices, so that kind of gives him a bit more power, and Robbie and the others are like holding him at gunpoint, trying to get him to tell them where the money is. And the big gut punch of the episode, which is very well done, is then when things go awry, because it turns out another person enters the house who lives there, and he starts sneaking about, and he kills the drug dealer. So he dies in this, adding to the body count, adding to the drama, and everything just goes nuts. There's a shoot off. And because things escalate, Robbie and Cliff have to kill everybody in the house. So things have gotten out of hand, because clearly the plan was just to go in there and to find out where the money was and to leave. So things get out of hand. And the gut punch is then there's a young boy in there. He comes out innocently. It's like, are you friends of my dad's? And they have to pretend to be friends of his dad, who's one of the guys in the house. And one of the twists is then Robbie ends up taking the kid home. You see that at the end, because when Ruffalo's character Tom and that are called in, there's no sign of the kid, but neighbours have reported that there was a kid in the house. He was there at the time. But we then cut to Robbie taking him home. And that could be a very interesting character beat for Robbie, where it's almost like he's a bit of a screw-up as a father. So this could be his opportunity to like make amends. And not that it's the right thing to do to take the kid home, but it at least shows that there's a little bit of a conscience there, where he just didn't want, like in his mind at least, he didn't want to leave the kid to his own means, didn't want to leave him without like a parent figure, and just felt that maybe that was the best thing to do. So that's definitely going to become a thread, where maybe having the kid in the house could lead to more drama, could lead to more problems, because people are going to be looking for him. So that was an interesting little thing that played out at the end of the episode. It also did a decent job of making me like Melv, however you say her name, and making me invest in her character because of the way she was with Robbie's kids. And then there's quite a nice little scene where one of the kids is like giving her approval on like her outfit for the date, and there's this line from Merv about like the date's like a 6 out of 10, but at least he's something different. At least I get to a night out, I get to dance, I get to talk to him about something other than buttholes, referring to what Robbie tends to talk about. And I think that's a theme in this show, is it's almost about people who are stuck in situations and trying to get out of them, or maybe are they just settling for their lot? Like, are they trapped? And so you can see that with this character, where she's she's now ready to like stop living with Robbie or stop being trapped in like a role as like a mother where it's not her children. And that's a big thing, that she deserves a night out, and that's why she has a bust up later with Robbie, because when he walks in on her having sex, and there's this whole thing where she wants him to leave. So I thought that character was done quite well, like the depiction, and the actress Emilia Jones is very good, I thought, in the role. So, as I said, it's a solid episode. I think I have a couple of complaints maybe, or a couple of like questions. Is at times it does feel like a very run-of-the-mill HBO series. Like, it does feel quite similar to a lot of HBO shows we've gotten in the last few years, where maybe even if they're good, it's got this sense of, okay, this very worthy type, gritty type show where it's very slow moving and there's characters that are in the town. It's all about the drama of characters in the town, and there's a little bit of like sort of quirky or like darker humour. I think in this you could say maybe it could do with some lighter touches, some lighter moments of humour, because like Mare of Easttown definitely have had that and was very successful at making you like the characters or engage in them. I don't know if we're quite there yet with this one. And I think the other complaint is probably some of the stuff with Robbie and his side of things. It does feel a little bit like it's a cliche of like a working class character. It feels like it's a little bit of a stereotype of like people on the wrong end of things and the way they act, and it's almost like a trailer park type character. I think he's probably better written than that, and like the performance is definitely strong, but yeah, I think that's a little bit of a complaint. But overall, as long as it's compelling to watch and it keeps you on the toes and there's unexpected things, then it probably won't matter too much. But that's just something that stands out a bit. Then maybe this is a bit too much of a typical HBO drama from what we've been getting in the last few years, because it seems then the really great HBO shows like Succession is probably a good example of that, is where it feels like so dynamic and so entertaining to watch, and it really does things with the characters and with the dialogue where it like reaches out and grabs you, and there's a real flair to it. And White Lotus is a good example as well, where it's a very cleverly written show. So I think in comparison with shows like this probably feels quite mundane, but as I said, solid is definitely the word. I was pretty happy with the first episode. There was some good bits of direction, and it did do a good job of setting at least the main two characters up. And I would also say Maeve. I'm not sure yet about the task force, because we really only got like one scene with those. But yeah, pretty decent stuff so far. So that's my thoughts on Task episode 1. I will continue with this. Let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe as well. If you want to help the channel out momentarily, you can support me on patreon.com/borednow, or you can become a channel member. 3 different tiers for that, and I'll put that in the description to this video. Or you can donate a one-time donation on PayPal, or you can make a donate on this video. So in the super thanks, hit that button. And just a new feature which is on YouTube now, which will be on some of my videos. I'm assuming most of them, since the channel is monetized, but some of them at least, is that you can hit the hype button, and that will help hype up my videos to other people. So that's another thing you can do. But thanks for listening. Keep watching TV. See you guys again soon. Bye.
It's easy to talk about forgiveness or mercy. It's not your loss.
There's been a spate of home invasions. They want me to put together a task force.
Now? It's not a great time.
No, I don't have any choice.
Time now for traffic on the news. KYW News.
Where's the money?
You're the ones that's been causing all the problems, huh?
I'm gonna take their money so we can have a better life.
Hey, Dad.
So you think you could tell
We need to find this crew
heaven from hell,
before turf war escalates.
blue skies from pain?
When we're too deep into something,
Can you tell a green field
we just can't see what others see.
from a cold steel rail? A smile from a veil. Do you think you can tell?
You're not gonna ruin their lives just because you ruined yours.
You ever done something you can't be forgiven for? Don't do that, goddammit!
I haven't been a very good father to you lately.
My kids ask me if their mother's ever coming back, and I ain't got an answer. She's in your heart too.
If things go terribly wrong, people want to know why God let it happen.
Have I always found a way out?
You never did anything like this.
I don't want to hear it. Lie after lie after lie.
How I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl. Year after year. Running over the same old ground.
You could still go home.
What have we found?
Maybe if I want to go home, I don't know the way no more.